looking nice. Room service, if I like, I order twice. Hibachi, got the gravy on the rice. Rolling in Mexico like
Steeler fans, welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Q&A. It's Easter Sunday. Happy Easter to all who celebrate. Happy Resurrection Sunday. Thank you to all who would tune in on this holiday weekend for this edition of the Steelers Q&A. How do you guys like the backdrop here? Just getting some thoughts on it as we get started. I hope you guys like it. If not, we're going to be doing some trial and error type stuff here just to make this a little more fun, a little more interesting to look at than just my face and whoever guests we have on for the show. But I hope you like it. Thank you for tuning in. Afton, welcome in. Thanks for commenting already. Thanks for jumping in on an Easter Sunday. We're not going to keep this one long. We're not going to do a long one here tonight, and it's just going to be me, unless the person that I checked with just last minute today to see if he wanted to hop on. But I know it's Easter. I didn't want to bug anybody for Easter, so it's just going to be me, and we're going to keep it simple. We're going to keep it fun. Get your comments in, get your questions, and we will talk about all those on this special edition. I'm in my daughter's room tonight because of all the stuff going on. Yins are familiar with already with the house. So, hey, I am excited for Thursday. Afton asks, what are you most excited about for Thursday? Come Thursday. And I think right now the feelings that I'm feeling are, can it just be here already? I've kind of shared that sentiment the last couple of weeks, and I really mean it. Can it just be here already? Andrew Wilbar says it right now. Christmas week is here. Welcome in, Andrew. Feel free to hop on if you want to, Andrew. No worries if you want to. You can hop on and talk about this, because we're just going to be talking about Christmas week. All I want for Draftmas is... you get to answer the question. We'll talk about it on the show. Afton, we are going to get to your question here, but I do want to say, get that answer in. All I want for Draftmas is, left it open-ended for a reason. You guys throw in what you want for Draft Christmas, and we will get that mentioned here in the chat. Yes, Andrew, I can send you the link here. 1 second. Let me do that, because we want Andrew to join, if Andrew can join. It's always fun to have somebody to talk through this with. I know he's busy on Easter as well. There you go, Andrew. Hop on if you want to. And let's talk about this. Let's talk Afton. I am most excited about the Steelers' opportunities to maybe land some impactful players that we're going to see right away. And what I mean is, if they play this draft right, I really think that they can have a guy or two that can help out their defensive line right away. I think they can have a running back that can help their team right away. I think they might have a chance to grab a backup quarterback for the future here as well. And maybe a wide receiver to replace George Pickens down the road. They've got a lot of areas that they could go. And we've seen them kind of just hit this thing from all angles. And the pre-draft visits did it for me. They showed me that the Steelers are interested in bringing in the best value at probably 4 positions here. And for me, those positions are defensive tackle, quarterback, running back, and wide receiver. Not necessarily in that order, but, definitely some semblance of that. Andrew, welcome in, man. Driving home from church on Easter Sunday? How's it going?
Yes, I'm actually in the Wendy's parking lot right now. I decided, I got the notification that the Q&A was starting, so I pulled on. Did not expect to come on, but I mean, it's draft week. How can I resist, right? So you're going to, I'm happy to listen in while I'm eating my Wendy's Vanilla Frosty.
That's great. Yeah, that's great. And feel free to chime in too as we go. What are you most excited about for Thursday? I know for me, obviously I was saying, I think the Steelers can get a position or two figured out where we can get some impact players coming in right away. I think defensive tackle, I think running back specifically, maybe even wide receiver, depending on where they go those routes. But what are you most excited about for come Thursday? whatever that option is for you.
I'm excited to see the trades just in general, not just Steelers specifically, but I want to see how this unfolds because you keep hearing all the rumors of how the league views the players 10 through 45 almost identically. I think we're going to see, I don't think we're going to see earth shattering shockers in the first round, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw like a Carson Schlesinger go first round, or maybe you see a team like the Chiefs trade up for a Josh Simmons if the tackles go early. Maybe you see some surprising things like that happen, not something we couldn't ever expect, but something we wouldn't probably bet on. And I think there's going to be a lot of that this year. And it's just going to be interesting to see how this league values the draft, how they value future picks and trades. And just because we haven't seen any yet, every team still has their first round pick this year, which is absolutely insane. So I'm excited to see just the trades in general and see if the Steelers will be one of those teams that looks to move back.
Yeah, me too. And I think they would love to move back if they can. I just don't know if they're going to get a chance to. We'll see how that goes. But the trades are always one of the more intriguing parts of draft weekend, and I'm really excited to see what might be able to go down from that point of view as well. The question in the title, all I want for Draftmas is, we've got a couple of answers for that already. Afton says, I want a high-end defensive tackle. Good news. There's several of those that can be had in this draft. Andrew, if you're just blind ranking the defensive tackles as you've come down the list here over the draft totality that we've looked at so far, give me your top 5 defensive tackles in the order that you would pick them if they were available for Pittsburgh at 21.
Well, Mason Graham would definitely be first overall. And if I don't have my list in front of me, generally speaking, I have Walter Nolan as the second highest rated guy. For the Steelers specifically, I'm not sure he has the length. So for the Steelers, it would be different a little bit. But generally speaking, I have Kenneth Grant right after that. Actually, no, I apologize. I have Kenneth Grant 2. I've got Walter Nolan 3. I've got Derek Harmon 4. But they're all very, very close. I think all of them are really solid players. I like them all. And then at number 5, I've got Darius Alexander from Toledo. Really like him, a little bit older prospect. But on a trade back scenario to the beginning of the second round, wouldn't be opposed to him either.
Yeah. I like all those names. I would order them a little bit differently. And you know, if you followed us on our shows, that's been pretty clear. I love myself some Derek Harmon. He's my number 2 defensive tackle. So Mason Graham, Derek Harmon. Then I like Walter Nolan, then Kenneth Grant. And then my number 5 is my Ohio State boy, Tyleik Williams. I like him a lot at the back end of the first round, but Darius Alexander would be in that category as well. So Afton, there's going to be some of those guys that we can talk about. So good stuff there. All I want for Draftmas is, Rick Martinez says, 2 playmakers, 1 started by 2026, if not sooner. 1 key rotation spot playmaker in later rounds. That would be a good draft. And I said at the top of the show, I think the Steelers can get 2 impact players if they draft them in the correct order right off the top of this draft. If they go get that high-end nose tackle, if they go get a running back on day 2, I think those 2 guys could be very impactful playmakers for the Steelers this year. And you might get somebody in that in that starter range by that time. Sorry, Andrew Wilbar distracted me with his frosty bite there. It's starting to get me a little hungry. I might have to go get a piece of pineapple upside down cake here in a second and eat it for the second half or something like that.
I mean, it's draft week. You gotta keep that energy up. You gotta get the sugar going. I'm pulling these all-nighters trying to get these draft rankings down and stuff. It's like it's only fitting to be eating Wendy's the week of the draft on a Q&A podcast. If you're in the chat, mention what is your go-to on draft night.
Yeah, exactly. Andrew, we blew it this year. Last year we did a fast food draft and we need to do it again. We should have done it again. If we run out of questions on this, we might just hit that up. Wendy's Frosties though have to be top of the list for sweet treats from a fast food type place. But okay, Andrew, do you think the Steelers could land 2 playmakers for 2025 and a started by 2026 in this draft class?
They can. It's going to be a little bit more challenging than other years, and it's important that the Steelers prioritize player over position this year. I believe valuing the running back position a little bit less than others will help, because I think if the Steelers do wait until round 4, there will be somebody available. Maybe it's not the DJ Giddens that I want, but Donovan Edwards I like almost as well. I've got a really high grade on him. There's going to be a lot of running backs that fall to day 3. If the Steelers have a receiver with a similar grade they value, or a corner with a similar grade that they value in that 3rd round, I don't love the day 2 corners this year, but I think that's the way to kind of get it down. If you wait until day 3 to get the running back can easily be your playmaker if you have the offensive line in place. And I think 1st round Steelers can easily get a difference maker in the defensive line. So I think 100%, as long as they prioritize the positions in the order in which they should, and maybe, even though defensive line is deep, prioritizing it early because it is such an important need, getting one of those premier guys, I think that's your superstar, your playmaker for future years. And you can easily, in the later rounds of this draft, still get a good running back.
Absolutely. I got to bring up this comment from Brian Brown. Doesn't matter who the Steelers pick, all the way to preseason, whoever it is, every one of them will be the next Steelers Hall of Famer in Steelers fans' eyes. I'm guilty too. Andrew, I get that way too after the draft. I'm like, okay, I can see the vision here. I get excited about this, and we'll see what happens. But in the moment, I know, like, Kenny Pickett over Malik Willis, that didn't sit well with you in that draft class. I'm sure there's been many times since then, but I remember a couple years ago when the Steelers took Broderick Jones, and then they came back after trading back to land my guy in that draft, Darnell Washington. I was ecstatic, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. This is the guy that's going to unlock the Matt Canada offense. This is the guy that's going to turn the Steelers into a real offense again, because of what he can do for your structure, no matter what you're trying to run, whether it's running the ball, passing the ball, all those things. Hasn't quite turned out that way where he's like this unlocking piece, but he's been fun to watch. And there are some highlights on his tape, especially as a blocker, that you like to see. So, but Brian, I agree. There's going to be a couple players in this draft at least that I'm going to be all in on by the time it gets done, even though maybe personally they're not that high up on my draft board. I wasn't a huge fan of the George Pickens selection when it went down a few years ago. I thought that there were other receivers that I would have liked to have in that draft class. But they went with Pickens, and by the time preseason came around, I was absolutely hooked. I was ready to go with George Pickens. So, yeah, absolutely. All right, keep them coming. All I want for Draftmas is keep them coming. Gavin Anthony says probably a quarterback or nose tackle. I mean, Andrew, I think we both agree we don't want that quarterback in the 1st round, but they do need to draft a quarterback somewhere in this draft, probably, right?
I would think so. I mean, this would be the first time really in the history of the Steelers if they did not draft a quarterback and they're just going with Mason Rudolph and a futures contract type player, Skylar Thompson. I mean, that's all they got at this point. So I definitely think you see the Steelers add a quarterback at some point. I know in mock 4.0, I had the Steelers taking Jalen Milroe. If I had to bet on it right now, I'd probably say the Steelers wait until the early day 3 to address it with that 4th round pick. That makes a lot of sense. Maybe if there's a bunch of quarterbacks still there, they wait beyond round 4 even to see if one falls later and try to address another position of need. But I do not see the Steelers drafting Shedeur Sanders, and I don't really see them drafting Jackson Dart either. Even if all the quarterbacks are available outside of Cam Ward, I'm just not sure that the Steelers would. I think the only intriguing scenario is if they trade down, would they consider someone like Milroe at a better value? That would be the only thing that I'd kind of hold out maybe a little bit of hope for. I definitely agree with you, though.
Yeah. And then the nose tackle part of this, let's say the Steelers end up taking Kenneth Grant with their 1st overall pick. He can step in for them at nose tackle right away and push Keanu Benton back outside a little bit in the defense. But I think that Kenneth Grant has more upside than just a nose tackle at the NFL level. That might be where he starts. But if you can get him to maximize that natural size and strength that he has in an NFL weight room, get him in there and get him in Carl Dunbar's defensive line room and really work this guy up, he has a chance to be really special in the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. So, you know, there was all this talk early on about Kenneth Grant, and then it kind of fell off for Steelers fans a little bit. I think when Mike Tomlin said that they weren't going to be looking for a one-spot guy in the 1st round at defensive tackle, but I think you're underselling Kenneth Grant if you call him a nose tackle only in this draft. There are some nose tackle onlys that I'd be interested in further down. Jamari Caldwell. I like Alfred Collins at that spot, and there was a question about Alfred Collins in here too. So Vernon Broughton out of Texas as well. There's several guys at nose tackle that you'd like further down the board, but let's not just say Kenneth Grant, if you pick him in the first round, that he's just a nose tackle. He might start there, Andrew, but he's probably more than that down the road if he lives up to his potential.
I agree. And if Steelers don't believe it, the Eagles will at pick 32 if he's available. They will prove to you that put him with Jordan Davis, nobody will run against them, and they will be amazed. You'll be amazed at how versatile you can be when you have two incredibly athletic nose tackles in the middle of your defense. It can open so much up for you. Hopefully the Steelers see that value in Kenneth Grant if he's available.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's see here. We're going to keep rolling with the questions. I'm trying to go in and, we got to, let's do this one. Jay's upper teeth. My upper teeth or just yours? Okay, I don't know. $2. You have to dip your fries in the Frosty, Andrew. Show us how it's done. If you're listening on audio only, you heard the crunch, but you didn't see it, but he did it. Is that the way to do it? Do you do that all the time?
It is, and I will say something that's even better. If you get some with chili, you get some of their saltine crackers. Putting the saltine crackers and putting them in the Frosty is good. You get that little bit of salt. You get the crunch with the sweet. It's really good.
No. I've never been the fries and Frosty guy. I don't think I'd go the saltine cracker and Frosty.
Don't knock it till you tried it.
Okay. I might have to try that. Might have to try that sometime. Thank you for the $2 tip donation there. Andrew, I feel like that one was specifically for you. So that covers your Frosty. We'll tell Jeff that he needs to figure out this $2 wherever it goes and just send it directly to you for your Frosty. We should do that. Okay, I'm trying to save some of these questions in here. Okay, let's get to from Joseph. Joseph, I'm never going to try to say your last name. I'm sorry. Andrew, you should try to say it sometime. You're much better at the names.
Mizlenovich.
Mizlenovich? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Great. Joseph Mizlenovich. Happy Easter. Happy Easter to you too. I hope you had a great Easter Sunday. Should the Steelers select the best player available or the position player of need? Andrew, I talked about this at the top before you hopped on. It felt like the way that the Steelers approach like the pre-draft visits and things like that, taking a look at all these guys in the same range at different positions, kind of feels like that they're willing to play the value game this year more than the strict position of need game that we've seen them play in previous years, probably because their top 3 or 4 needs are all equally necessary.
I would agree with that. And I think what works even better for the Steelers is that I think that a lot of the rest of the league is in a totally different scenario because the Steelers, their needs are at some of the deepest positions in this draft: defensive tackle, running back. There's positions. I mean, we know the quarterback class isn't strong at the top, but I would say the depth behind the first round guys this year is probably better than last year's, just in guys that could be potential starters down the line. And when you look, especially at the first round, and how there's not a bunch of guys at each position that every team is going to love. Every team has different grades on every player. So I think you're going to see a very needs-based draft for a lot of teams. Teams see only 1 or 2 players on the board at a position that they haven't filled yet. Not out of desperation, but if there's a player that they like, I think once you get to that 14, 15, 16, 17 range, you're going to start to see some trades for players that, on our boards, we may not have as high. Like I said, maybe a team trades up for Donovan Ezeraku, an edge rusher, because they have a preference. Not every edge rusher is going to be liked by the same team. You're all going to have your different flavors. So that thins out the draft even more. And we've talked about how it's not a deep draft. So I think you're going to see teams, okay, we have a need at this position. There's only so many guys we like. So, we've got to make sure that we get one of those guys, even if we have to kind of overpay in the eyes of, the national media. We're going to do what it takes to get a guy at that position. I think you're going to see teams across the league go with more of a needs-based draft. But I think that works even better for the Steelers because the positions they need could very well just fall right in order where they need them to fall.
I always struggle, especially this year specifically is what I'm trying to talk about, but I'm struggling to find the player that I think if he fell, the Steelers would not pass up on him. To me, well, my camera's being weird here, folks. To me, that guy is Mason Graham, but he's not going to fall, right? And these these top guys aren't going to fall that far. Ashton Genty is not going to fall that far. I don't know who else. Andrew, is there anybody who we're just not thinking about that could fall into the Steelers' lap? Is it Will Johnson? Is it? I struggle to find somebody. Is it Shedeur Sanders? I don't think so, but am I wrong about that? I don't know.
I think it would be Will Johnson, Shedeur Sanders, those two people that you mentioned. I think the best scenario for the Steelers is if Will Johnson falls to 21, the Steelers have either the option to take him, which I'd be perfectly fine with if the Steelers take him. He'd be the best player available. Or you have a team like Buffalo who has a good slew of picks. They don't really have that many needs. They have needs at defensive line and corner. They desperately need another corner opposite Teron Johnson. So they need to add somebody like that. If he's there, Will Johnson is a fantastic fit for the Bills defense. If I'm Buffalo, I'm doing what it takes, not just because I want the Steelers to trade back, but if I'm Brandon Beane, I'm going up saying, hey, what does it take for us to go up and get our guy, Will Johnson? And maybe the Steelers can, get a trade back there. Shedeur Sanders, I don't think a team would trade up with the Steelers, because if the Steelers are willing to trade out, that proves to the team that we don't need to move up there, because the Steelers really aren't that sold on Shedeur Sanders. But it would not shock me at all if Shedeur is still there at 21. I really would not be surprised at this point. I just don't think the league sees him quite as highly as the media does, and could be wrong on that. But the Saints are really the only team right now picking ahead of the Steelers and number one that are likely to look at quarterback. If he falls past the Giants at 3, I don't see any team between there taking him unless you have a trade up, and it's hard to find a team that would be willing to make that massive of a swing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's go ahead and take a break here on the audio side. And if you're listening live, we're not going anywhere. We'll be right back after this. And we are back here on the Steelers Q&A. It's Jeremy Betts and a Wendy's parking lot sitting Andrew Wilbar, sipping on Frosties and snacking on fries. Welcome into the Steelers Q&A. Where else can you get this type of content? I mean, it's just epic stuff. And we're talking NFL draft. All I want for Draftmas is we need some more answers to that question. If you haven't answered the question yet, hop in the chat and tell me what you want for quote unquote Draftmas, because it is that time. We are excited about it here, and we want to talk about it more. So Gavin Anthony, if we trade back in the first round and get a second round pick from it, is Alfred Collins a good option at nose tackle? I just mentioned him. I like him at nose tackle. I think he's got some upside with his length and his size. But Andrew, I haven't heard much on Alfred Collins from you. I'm curious to see if he's somebody that you like in this draft.
I just did his evaluation. I believe it ran on with all the defensive linemen, the quick hitters. I've been doing some quick hitters articles to get through all the mid-round picks that I didn't get Sky reports on for. With Collins, definitely a lot of upside. He only really a one-year player there for them. Really only played 1 year of consistent football. But if you're talking about traits, if you're talking about upside, I think Alfred Collins has a chance to be really, really dominant at nose tackle. He's not a sure thing, though. And I think that's the one difference between him and, say, Kenneth Grant. I would be shocked if Kenneth Grant is not, at the very least, a productive, solid, early down nose tackle. So you have at least that given. Whereas with Collins, he has some issues with the pad level. He's got a lot more technical issues he has to fix in his game. But if you're talking just from a broad perspective, it would not shock me at all if Alfred Collins is a Pro Bowl nose tackle in years to come. It's just definitely going to take a little bit of time. I don't think you see the same production from him from year one because he has a little bit less experience than some of the other guys at the position. But definitely a guy with some upside. I don't think he's that versatile. But if you're just putting him in the middle, that 0 or 1 tech depending on your front, I definitely think there's a lot of upside with Alfred Collins.
I like it. In relation to that, Brad Bowman says it would be nice to get a second rounder back. Now, I'll say this. I think it would be a stretch to say that if the Steelers make a first round pick trade, that doing so would land them a second round pick. If it would, it's going to be a really late one. It's going to be like the Chiefs at pick 63 or like the Bills at whatever they're picking 59 or something like that. It's not going to be it's not going to be a high second round pick or even a mid-round or mid-level second round pick. And I would probably anticipate it being more like a third round pick. The Chiefs pick again at 66. They'd probably be willing to give that up. And Andrew, I'd be fine with that type of return even for the 21st pick. The Bills have a couple third rounders as well. So setting expectations, I don't think you're netting a second round pick in return for pick 21. If you were to trade that, the Steelers moved up, 3 spots a few years ago, and all it took was a 4th. I don't see it being that little this year, but maybe a team, and the Steelers would probably be interested in this. Andrew and I would be fine with it too. What if a team said, okay, we'll give you our 4th round pick this year, and we'll give you a 2nd next year to move up? I would take that all day. And it doesn't matter to me if we don't get that 2nd round pick back necessarily in this draft. Give it to me next year. I'm totally fine with that.
I am too. And everyone talks about how day 2 is kind of the strength of this draft, if there is a strength. But I'm still looking at next year's draft class and saying the guys that are available in round 2, I probably still would rather have than the guys I can get in round 2 this year. Because just from top to bottom, next year's class and 2027's class is looking a whole lot better than this one. So if some team offers me a future pick, that's even better. I honestly value a 2nd round pick next year more than I would this year, even though it means going without one for a year, especially if you're looking at getting a quarterback next year. Get all the capital you can get accumulated to be able to make that move up to get the guy that you have conviction on.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. Okay, Reginald Rivers. I would like to know who Andrew's 1st round pick would be. Andrew, Omar Khan's been fired, all right? He's no longer with the team. You just got a phone call. Andrew, we need you to run this draft for us. We saw all the work you've been doing. We really like what we're seeing. We can't deal with the con artist anymore. He's not working out for us. You come in here with Andy Weidel and you make this pick for us. Who is it going to be?
I kind of got to know who's on the board. But
okay, you're fired again. We're moving on to the next person.
All right, Jeremy, you're up. So
Derek Harmon.
I wouldn't hate Derek Harmon. I could live with Derek Harmon. I would still go with Grant, but just based on the obvious guys available. If Will Johnson's there, just BPA, I would take Will Johnson. If Jedi Barron is there, BPA, I would take Jedi Barron. Either of those corners there, I'm taking them. But assuming they're off the board, based up upon everything, if I can't trade back, I'm still probably taking Kenneth Grant, even if I could get him a little bit later. This is the type of defender the Steelers have needed for a while in the middle of the defense to be able to stop the run. And it opens up so much more for the guys on the end and the pass rush and these great outside linebackers the Steelers have. It takes so much pressure off of the interior is strong, and it helps the linebackers out too and keeps them clean. It just solves so many problems. Nose tackle is one of the most underrated positions in football and underappreciated spots. And when we see guys like Dexter Lawrence emerging as a pass rushing weapon now, which he never was in college, I think teams are starting to value the nose tackle again. I think Kenneth Grant would be great. I would take Kenneth Grant if I was the general manager of the Pittsburgh Steelers at 21, assuming the corners are off the board.
All right. Would it be the same situation? Say the corners are off the board, but Shedeur Sanders is there, and Matthew Golden is still there as well. Another guy that the Steelers have shown a lot of interest in. Matthew Golden, Shedeur Sanders, Kenneth Grant, those guys are all there. He's still taking Grant.
I'm still taking Grant.
Okay. In that situation, I would take Golden, and I would try to solve DT later because you've got some really good players at that late day 2, early day 3 type spot where I think you could fill some holes there. You were just looking at the Wiley kid from what school did he go to? Minnesota. Or no, I don't know.
Are you talking Wally?
No, it was a defensive tackle. I thought you had talked about it with Coach KT.
Oh, Riley Mills.
Riley Mills. Sorry,
yes.
Riley Mills, not Wiley. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Riley Mills from Notre Dame. He's that
yeah.
longer defender, 6'5". His arm length is decent. It's not elite. I believe it's around 33 inches, which is sufficient. It's at that borderline. But a solid athlete across the board. You watch him this year. I think he had like 6.5, 7.5 sacks. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but productive guy. He missed a few games. I believe he missed 5 games with injury. So that was in like 8 or 9 games. If I'm remembering correctly, I've had so many guys I've evaluated, so I maybe changing him with somebody else, but I do know just based on his skill set, a guy who can penetrate. He's got some power. He does a solid job just all the way around. Just in terms of technique, needs a little bit of work lowering the pads a tiny bit, but the way that he goes after and the motor that he has, the way he finishes plays, I just have a hard time believing this guy's not going to be productive in some way, in some role in the NFL, at the very least a rotational rusher you can get on day 3 in that probably that 5 technique role for the Steelers. Would absolutely love that. And you could still draft a Kenneth Grant and solve your defensive tackle needs with those 2 picks.
Yeah. And in my world where you took Matthew Golden with the first round pick, you could go get a JJ Peggies in the third or fourth round, and then back like doubled up, go get Riley Mills in the fifth. There's a world where you do that, and that feels pretty good to me as well. So let's move on. Anthony Godwin is making a prediction. He's saying guard in the third again. I'm calling it. Andrew, do you see this as a possibility? I kind of think that they're looking elsewhere early, but guard might be in play on day 3.
It could. I really think it could. And if the Steelers still prioritize the offensive line, one name to keep an eye on would be Wyatt Milam, the offensive tackle / guard from West Virginia. I do not like him at all at tackle. I thought his tape was very poor, very stiff. I think if you move him inside to guard, some of those problems are alleviated, and I think that's where he does move in the NFL. He's in that late 3rd round, early 4th round range. I've got him rated a little bit lower on the board personally, just I'm not the biggest fan of his, but he is somebody the Steelers have talked with, and I think he would be a fit for what they're trying to do. He's more of a zone blocker. I think there's a lot of schematic fits there as it pertains to him. There's several other guards I think could be good fits in there. We talked about a couple of them on the DDP this past week on day 3, so make sure you check that out if you haven't yet. But Wyatt Milam is one guy I could see the Steelers circling on their board saying if he falls to say that, that first day 3 pick, they don't go quarterback, he could be an option for them.
I like it. I'm going to say 3rd round, no, Anthony, but I mean, if they did, I wouldn't hate it. It's definitely one of those positions where you can't have too many. So I think it would depend on the first round pick a little bit, what they got there. But if that's a defensive tackle or a guy that fills like a need at running back, even if they traded back in the first round and they went guard in the second, I wouldn't hate that. Or guard in the third, I would not hate it. Okay. Let's see. This is a fun question from John S. Where is there more value in the 3rd and 4th round, running back or defensive line? Let's just say defensive line. I think it's running back. I think it's running back just because those guys are so good. But Andrew, this is a good question because I think you can find value pieces at both spots in the 3rd and 4th round.
I think you can, but I agree with you. Running back's a little bit deeper. You can get stars potentially if you put them in position to succeed at running back 3rd, 4th, even 5th round. Donovan Edwards has a chance to be a star. DJ Giddens has a chance to be a star. Damian Martinez even could be a great power back in the NFL if he gets some things fixed in his game. Jaden Blue, super explosive. Dylan Sampson. Yeah, a defensive tackle, nose tackle. You've got more rotational guys. Omar Norman Lott could be a good fit. JJ Peggies, he has some athleticism, but he's not going to be an every down player. I think the upside guys cap off after 2 rounds. I expect Darius Alexander to be off the board in round 2. Ty Robinson, very latest early round 3. Joshua Farmer could be available. I think he goes a little bit earlier on too. And even him, I'm not completely convinced as a 3 down defensive lineman. I think the guys that are those 3 down potential Pro Bowl type guys will be still gone in the first 2 rounds. So if you want one of the really good guys, you need to go with them because even though it is deeper than normal, I still think that there's a pretty significant drop off once you get to round 3 at DT.
Good stuff. Another $2 from Jay's Upper Teeth. Thank you, Jay's Upper Teeth. We appreciate that. Teeth making money, sharing a little bit. How you feel about trading out of the first altogether? It would depend on how far back and obviously the compensation, but I wouldn't hate that. I wouldn't hate that with some of the guys that you're looking at the top of the 2nd round. There's some good value there. You could get and feel good about one of those 2 Ohio State running backs there. You could get a quarterback there and feel fine about doing that. There's going to be some good defensive linemen there still. A guy like Kenneth Grant or Walter Nolan or Derek Harmon, one of those guys could be there still at the top of the 2nd. So I wouldn't hate it. Andrew, how would you feel?
Wouldn't hate it at all. And if the Steelers are like the rest of the league and the fact that they view the, pick players 10 through 40, 45, and, they grade them out pretty similarly, you make that move because there's going to be somebody available with a similar grade there, unless you have one of the premier guys somehow fall to you at 21, which in this draft, I don't think happens. So if you have them all graded similarly, you might as well trade back. You're getting a similar player and you get picks most likely for next year. If not, you get an extra pick in that range where everyone says it's the strength of the draft. So to me, it's a win-win situation.
Zachary Zimmerman had a similar question. Would you be willing to trade back to the early second round to get a first in 2026, even if it means getting Tyleik Williams over a Kenneth Grant or Derek Harmon? I don't know if you're getting a first with that type of trade. Probably not. But I mean, even if it was like a second next year and a third this year or something like that, I'd be fine with it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think you get a first. I do think some teams will value those 2026 picks more, but in all honesty, if you can get a first, don't even worry about the rest. I don't care where the Steelers are picking in the second. If you're trading up from 64, Philly, we will take your first next year for this year's first flat out, and then get a second. I mean, give that to me all day.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's see. And to answer the other part of that question, if it meant getting Tyleik Williams over Kenneth Grant or Derek Harmon, I mean, that's fine. It depends on what you do with those other picks that you're getting, but that would be fine with me. I like the upside of Williams as well. So, all right, let's see. Mark Cunningham says, in my humble opinion, we absolutely have to find a way to get that second round pick back. And if we do, let's go to defensive tackle in round 1 and offense in rounds 2 through 4. What say you? How do they get that second round pick is my question. If it's a player trade like George Pickens or Minkah Fitzpatrick or something like that, then obviously that need just jumps up the board and you need to draft their replacement at some point in that range. Say it's George Pickens that they trade and you do go defensive tackle in round 1, then 2 through 4 you get a running back, a wide receiver, and say a guard. That's fine with me. What do you think, Andrew?
I don't hate that. I want to ask you, because my mind is so wrapped around the draft and draft prospects right now, I've completely forgotten what's happened in free agency. So it may be a dumb question. Where did Nick Chubb sign?
He hasn't.
That's okay. Thank you. That's what I thought. I know that this draft is great at running back, but the Steelers could easily, after the draft, go out and say, "Hey, we don't have to draft running back, even though it's deep. We can just go out and sign Nick Chubb on the cheap right now." And the Steelers would be perfectly fine at running back this year. Perfectly fine. Pair him with Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell. I'm perfectly fine going into the season with that backfield. That takes one need away. There's still a couple guys at corner on the open market that, maybe they wouldn't been the top options, but they're serviceable number 2s. I mean, the Steelers, yes, the Steelers have needs, but I feel like, I appreciate the question, Mark. It's a very good question. But I think that when we have a feeling that the Steelers have to find a way to get that second round pick back, we're basing it on the fact that the Steelers still have, you could say, needs at all of these positions: corner, DT, running back. They need quarterback, obviously. But I'm not looking at it from the perspective, if I'm the Steelers GM, of I have to fill every need that we currently have in the draft. Because one, the Steelers' current cornerback situation, Steelers don't have a chance to compete in 2024 for a Super Bowl anyways, whether it's with Rodgers or without. I just don't see that happening. And I also think that the guys that are still available in free agency, you can fill a couple of those needs with. So it gives you the flexibility to still go BPA from there with the picks that you have, and then garner more picks next year when you need it to move up for the quarterback.
Yep, I kind of agree with that. And Mark, here, while we're talking about your question, just wanted to bring it up. JB, I got that exact hat you're wearing tonight. It's a good one. My granddad's had pawpaw stitched in the side of mine. I'm not a pawpaw yet, so that's not stitched in the side of mine. But Mark, that's great, man. And it's a great hat. I wear it everywhere. I get it too dirty. Probably shouldn't do that. But I love it. Good stuff. And let's see here. Get into some more of these here. Mark Collins. Here's a pick no one expects. Is Kelvin Banks offensive tackle or Donovan Jackson guard? Think about that, or Josh Simmons. I'm just saying, if they were to go offensive line in the first round, then I mean, it would have to be one of those 3 guys. Probably maybe a Tyler Booker, throw it in that conversation, but I don't know if I'd be happy with that, Andrew, because of what they've invested in it the last couple years at tackle specifically. Yeah,
if you're drafting tackle, like, that means you're moving Fautanu into guard, which I don't hate. I think he can be a really good guard, but I just don't see that happening. One, the reports that I'm hearing, is that Calvin Banks is going to go higher than what we all expected him to.
Yeah.
I think he is going to be off the board. There's just so many teams that need offensive line right now. And like I said, once those first 10 or so guys come off the board that everyone has graded the same, everyone's going to have grades differently on these guys, and they're not going to love all these prospects. So they're going to get the ones that they feel they need at a position they need. So there's going to be a couple teams out there that really like Calvin Banks, whether the media does or not, whether that's San Francisco, whether that's Indy. Indy needs offensive line help still. There could be a team that trades up. I think Kansas City could target Josh Simmons on a trade up. I don't know that Simmons makes it because Houston's in the same scenario. Yeah. I think they would easily take a Tyler Booker or Calvin Banks if they're there. But what's the guarantee that either of them are there? If one goes 11 and then Indy's on the clock at 14 and both the tight ends are off the board, they could easily go offensive line here, and then Houston's out of options. So maybe Houston trades above their division rival Indy. I mean, maybe a big trade like that happens draft night.
Yeah. I mean, the Dolphins, who picked right before Indy, they could use Kelvin Banks Jr. I mean,
yeah,
they could use him a lot. So, yeah, but so Mark, just to answer the question, yeah, it would be unexpected. Absolutely. And I don't know how I would feel about it at pick 21. Like if you were to get into the second round somehow, early second round, and Donovan Jackson's still there, then that would be a conversation to be had, because you do need some guard, at least depth, and somebody to push Mason McCormick for that starting role. And I like Jackson, but I just don't know if the Steelers are going to, after the investments they've made at offensive line, offensive tackle specifically, I think they're looking to make investments elsewhere in this draft class. So, but good question there overall. All right, let's just do some quick hitters real quick, Andrew, before we get out of here. Brad Bowman says, if Sanders falls to 21, do we take him? Andrew, are you taking him, Sanders, if he falls to 21?
No.
Okay. Do you think the Steelers would?
No.
Okay. I agree. No and no. I think that's the biggest smokescreen of the draft right now, is their interest in Sanders, personally. If the Giants said, we want Sanders and we'll give you a first-round pick next year because we're coming up for a quarterback, like was mentioned earlier, I think the Steelers would take that every day and twice on Sunday.
Yeah.
So
I think the Steelers do like him, but not enough to take him right where they're at.
Yeah. Yeah. Shaka Steele says, I'm taking Sanders at 21. Brian Brown says, I wouldn't bet against Deion Sanders, kid. I'd be okay with him being a Steeler too. I don't know, guys. I can't get on board with it yet. I'm sure once, if they were to pick him and give me a couple months, I'd probably be on your side, thinking that there could be something to work here. Kind of did that with Kenny Pickett too. But I mean, there's always a chance that it could work, right? But I think that the Steelers have made their intentions very clear, and to all of a sudden on draft night sidetrack to, okay, let's just take Sanders. That just feels desperate to me to land it that way.
I agree.
All right, let's see. This is a fun one here. Mark Cunningham, let's say we have a choice between the two Ohio State running backs. Which one is best for us? I like Judkins because he's a bigger back, but can also hit home runs. Agree or no? I personally like Henderson. I think that he's more dynamic and explosive than Judkins. Judkins is kind of a battering ram with good athleticism, but he doesn't always take full advantage of the opportunities in front of him because he's just so gung-ho attack, and he misses things. Henderson's got a little more nuance to his game, which is why I think that the tape is better and the results have been better, especially when they were together at Ohio State. But when you have Jaylen Warren on your team already, Judkins would make sense. But if I had to actually say which of these two guys is Jaylen Warren more like, I'd say Judkins, honestly, because of how quickly they attack the hole. Travion Henderson, to me, is a little bit more nuanced of a player and a better prospect, in my opinion, obviously, than Warren was. He went undrafted, and then better than Judkins, if I were ranking them. But what say you?
Yeah, I would go with Henderson. He's my highest rated back. If you're that worried about the power, you can pick up a Phil Maffa in the later rounds. Just draft a second running back. And then you've got your power guy, and you can get the speed guy. But I'm still at running back. I'm still going to go with the best guy available. Yeah. And in my opinion, I think Henderson has never reached his full potential. I think he's got a bright future ahead.
Henderson may go in the first round. I mean, he's got enough juice in talks with people. Benjamin Albright, who covers the Broncos, said that the Bears really, really like Henderson and that he would be in play with the 10th overall pick if Ashton Genty is off the board, which is a little crazy to me. But if that is the case, then that means he's got some love out there, and he could go first round. So that's a little wacky. I see by your expression too, Andrew.
I'm just imagining. Okay, I live in Chicagoland. That's where I go to school. So I'm just imagining what the atmosphere around here would be like if the Bears, after all the hype, oh, we've got our coach, we've got our quarterback, we've got the 10th pick, and we're gonna take Travion Henderson. That would be like all of Chicagoland would be like me when the Steelers drafted Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
As I'm screaming my head off. What are you thinking?
With Tyler Warren on the board, with Shamar Stewart or Michael Williams,
Calvin Banks, even
Calvin Banks, yeah, all these guys on the board, and you take Travion Henderson. Travion, if you're listening to this, I don't know why you would be, but we still love you. But I don't think you're going 10 to the Bears, man. I'm sorry, but all right. Next to last one here. Do they draft a wide receiver? If so, which round? Not to spoil it, I do have them drafting a receiver in my final prediction mock draft that will be coming out this week. I just submitted it tonight. I have it in the 6th round, though. Wait. Yeah, 6th round. And it is Illinois wide receiver Pat Bryant, Andrew, in the 6th round. So that was my prediction here, just as maybe a player at a position I think they want to address in this draft at some point, but I don't think it trumps DT, running back, corner, probably safety are in that mix as well, and quarterback. So I don't know. That's where I have it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers wait that long. I haven't come up with my final mock yet for the Steelers, but as of right now, I think I've got them going receiver in the 5th round. I don't have a specific name addressed, just going by position. I think the Steelers would probably target a running back first. If one of those quarterbacks like McCord or Howard are still there in the 4th, I think the Steelers would probably take a look at that before receiver, depending on who's available. The only caveat would be maybe if Xavier Restrepo is still there in the 4th. I think he'd be great value for the Steelers, and I'd definitely be okay with that. And I know the Steelers, I believe, have met with him at some point during the process. So I wouldn't hate that matchup, but I would agree. I think the Steelers are going to wait a little bit. I don't think they're going to give up on Roman Wilson. If the Steelers do take one early, though, that should send up a lot of red flags. Okay, Roman Wilson is on bust alert.
Yeah. I think that it says more about George Pickens' future, but that could be the style of play as well. Yeah. So
the style receiver's big.
Yeah. My thought with Pat Bryant was style. He's a very much a hands catch, contested catch, body control, sideline type guy, and he would fit that mold. But like if it's Jalen Noel or it's Xavier Restrepo, then yeah, Roman Wilson gets put on notice right away. So stylistically, we'll have to see what that looks like. All right. Anthony Godwin's got our last question here. What pick would surprise everyone in the 1st? Andrew, for me, I would be absolutely shocked. And I know Jerry Dulac's been saying that the Steelers have a 1st round grade on Jackson Dart. I would be shocked if Jackson Dart was the Steelers' 1st round pick in this draft. That's my answer to this. What's yours?
Yeah. Surprising to everyone. Does that mean including me as well? Like I don't see happening?
Yeah. I think he was asking the chat more or less, but we put it up here because I just wanted to see what your surprise pick would be.
Because I'm like, I think a pick that would surprise people in general be like maybe like a Darius Alexander, like they go DT, but they don't go the one that we think they would, at 21. I think the pick that would surprise everyone that has some feasibility would be who I gave the Steelers a mock 4.0, Jalen Milroe.
Yep.
I don't hate Jackson Dart either. I would be shocked if the Steelers took Dart as well. He reminds me very much of Kenny Pickett's scenario. But Milroe, it's feasible. The Steelers have shown enough interest. Obviously, there's some team that must really like him. We don't know who that team is or if he will go in the first. I could see him still sliding to the second, but I think that would surprise everyone at least a little bit. Even though I mocked it, there would still be a little bit of me that's like, well, okay, this actually happened.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. Good stuff. Andrew, you were a godsend tonight, a lifesaver. I didn't have anybody to do this with, and I wasn't going to bug anybody on Easter. Everybody's busy on the holidays or just chilling with family, but thanks for hopping on, man. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me. I was literally, as I was like driving home, I'm like, man, like this was before any notification that, the Q&A was even on. I'm like, man, it'd be really nice this week to draft to pick up a couple more opportunities to, be able to talk draft. I feel like, we haven't talked enough about it and it's here. And then I just stopped in the comment section. I definitely did not expect to come on, but I'm like, hey, let's go. Thank you so much for having me on. It was fun.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And you know what? You and I are going to hit the draft hard this week with a couple more shows. Steelers Fix on Thursday and the Q&A, or not the Q&A, this is the Q&A, and the DDP Draft Dynasty podcast, which is going to be running Thursday as well. And it's all about mock drafts. It's all about our final predictions. So check those out on Thursday. Listen to them back to back and then hit me up on X and tell me what you thought because it's going to be a lot of fun. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, tune in. We are going to be live for the entirety of the draft. Andrew's going to be there. I'm going to be there. We're going to mix and match some guys in throughout the whole process. We've got you covered here on the Steelers. On the Steel Curtain Network, Fans First Sports. We've got you covered all here for all of the draft stuff going down. Andrew, that's going to do it for us. Thanks for hopping on. Thank you to all of you for hopping on as well. Until next time, we'll see you on the
Living a good life.